I'm here this morning with Pastor Paul and Pastor Johnston, and one of our goals here at Spirit of Joy in 2022 is to tell more stories. We have so many stories of our ministries, both inside our walls and outside our walls, and stories of how our partners are living out their callings. And many of you know, if you were in worship or been reading some of our communications, that Pastors Paul and Lil have recently donated their minivan to our preschool, which has been a goal for the preschool to provide transportation. So I invited them here today to talk about that gift and ask some questions about their own practice of generosity. So thank you for being here, for being willing to be on the screen. And but I ask you again what I did when we thank you in worship, to tell me about what you're thinking or about the process of your deciding to give this generous gift to our preschool so we can expand and extend our ministry.
Well, we hadn't really thought of it too much. We didn't have any time to think of it at all, actually, and we knew that the preschool was looking for transportation and so forth. And one Sunday you mentioned that if somebody had a minivan they'd be willing to donate, that'd be accepted too. And that's the first time I even began to think that might be a possibility. And we'd had the minivan since 2014. And it had a few miles accrued on it, and so we thought, it's in good shape. It's never given us any problems. This might be just the thing that they need. And suddenly, in not too much time, we were able to turn that around and make it happen.
Yeah, it's a great gift, and we really look forward to what that might mean, not only for preschool, but for confirmation and youth events and that sort of thing. So, as you know, looking at the wall, you can't see it from the camera, but one of our core values or key practices is extravagant generosity. And for people who practice generosity, I'm always interested in hearing, who were your teachers? So really the only questions I have is who taught you to practice generosity? And say a few words about how you understand living as Jesus followers, or that generosity is an outgrowth of, you guys are so involved, have been so involved in not just the church, but connecting the church with the community, and especially people who are of lower income or who have struggled. So that's enough for me. But I'm curious to hear those things from you. Who taught you about generosity, and how do you see that as important to you? Look.
I was born and raised here in Sioux Falls, and did not leave until it was time to go to the seminary. And my home congregation here in Sioux Falls, not only were there opportunities for worship, but it afforded me opportunities even in early elementary school to share in my love of music with singing in the choir. And through singing in the choir and opportunities that were there for in worship was a call for other things that I might be able to do. And so I grew up spending long mornings at First Lutheran Church downtown, and sang in the choir and worked in the church nursery, and through that, involvement in youth group and opportunities to go to national youth gatherings, and then beyond that to attend Augustana College, and a call through that to Luther Seminary for service in the church, and ultimately 42 years of ministry in the church before we retired. And in those many years, many opportunities to be involved with both on a local and synod-wide and even ELCA-wide ministry opportunities for service.
As a pastor who's been, I can't quite match you yet, but sometimes pastors sort of steer away from generosity talk or money talk. As we've said, we've celebrated how you've practiced that. In particular, your practice of generosity. Have there been mentors? Is that something you have picked up along the way as pastors? Felt like that was necessary for leadership, or?
Actually, it's something that I think we've grown into over the years. To me, today, it's much different than it's been for a long time.
Okay.
Giving to the church for me for years was one of those things. You give a percentage of your income. You hope that the church will use it in some beneficial way. I want to do my part, do what I can, and so forth. And I compare it to very similar to how I used to leave a tip for a server in a restaurant. And back in the day, 10%, 15 was good. Now 20. So what can I do my part to show my appreciation to the server for a job well done? And that's kind of how I looked at my giving to the church. Give to God my appreciation and so forth. But over the years that's changed, and mostly it was finding out that a lot of servers are underpaid. Many of them are single parents trying to put food on their table for their own children. And so there's a lot of needs there. And so my giving there has changed to what can make a difference in a person's life rather than what little bit can I leave on the table to show appreciation.
What is required of me?
What's required of me, exactly. And so my giving to the church has changed as well from, okay, what's required of me to give to God, to what can I do in response to what God's done for me, but also to make a difference in people's lives. And so when we started doing that, we started seeing things that we could do beyond just what we gave to the church. This van is an example. There's something that can be done with that we can give. We've done the same thing for years between the two of us for people that are in poverty making possible things that they wouldn't have otherwise. And that's been a part of our giving. And so it became a whole different way of thinking in terms of personally, and I think each person has their own thing they can do. Personally, what can we do to make a difference in people's lives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To me, it's been a life of faith growth where the more years we have to live, the more we realize how much we've been blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And in being blessed, then knowing that we are also then to be a blessing to others.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's the person that waits on us at a table at a restaurant this evening as we go out for supper, or whether it's other people that we encounter in our work with Church on the Street or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Too much has been given, as much expected, and we can return that
Yeah.
so that others are blessed as well.
I'm curious what's been most rewarding for you about living, serving, answering your callings to live out your ministry as pastors. Looking back, what's been most, maybe you don't have to think of the one thing, but what's the thing or two that's been very rewarding for you to serve and live out your callings?
To me, it's seeing how many people our lives have touched in one way or another. People that I've had a conversation with maybe over the phone about early on women in ministry, and then 10, 20 years later, and found out that that person is now serving the church. Those kinds of things that you never know how much you can affect people's lives, but you find out through letters, through phone conversations, someone who knows this but a particular individual that you touched, and they said, this is the response that your life, your sharing with them of your faith, of your ministry journey has made for them to say that if this person can do it, then I can do it too.
Thank you.
I just add to that. We kind of pioneered the way for being the first couple in the ALC, the predecessor denomination of the ELCA, to be ordained together, and so most of the places that we've served, and we've been many places during our ministry, Lil was the first woman that congregation had in the pulpit, and so we both kind of pioneered that whole thing, and each place you go, as Lil mentioned, there's different people that you come in contact with, different congregations that you've been able to be a part of, and it has made a difference again in people's lives. I was a chaplain for 2.5 years at Mercy Medical in Sioux City, and it was amazing how many people I'd run into on the street that would recognize me. I had no clue who they were, and you were with us when my dad died, and how much a difference that would make. And like I said, there was probably hundreds of people I'd been with when their dad died, but they knew me because I was one face. And so there's those individual situations where, and there's thousands of them, where you find out later that it made a difference.
Well, thank you. Thank you for hearing the Spirit's call to be gathered into this congregation with your daughter and grandkids. We're grateful for you. It's wonderful to share ministry with you. Thank you for your leadership with Church on the Street. Thank you for your generosity, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.